Thank you, Madam Chair, and I thank my friend from Arizona for yielding for 1 minute. I rise in strong support, first of all, of this budget resolution. It's a critically important piece of legislation. Frankly, might be one of the most important resolutions that this chamber has taken up in years to start the process of delivering on the mandate that President Trump and this House and Senate Republican majority got from the voters of America in November. Now, I understand that my friends on the other side of the aisle are upset with the voters of America that they lost the election. They're upset with the results. But if everybody here listened to what the American people said in November, frankly, first of all, they would vote for this resolution because the resolution delivers on those commitments, the things that were talked about, the things that sent people to the polls that say, finally, let's get America back on track. And how do we do it? We start, number one, by staving off a $4.5 trillion tax increase. $4.5 trillion. So we've heard a lot of hyperbole over the last few days. Just here on this House floor, we've heard from the other side of the aisle, Madam Chair, about millionaires and billionaires. For some reason, it seems like if somebody's successful in America, the other side of the aisle wants to demonize them, as if that's wrong. But clearly, if you read this bill is not about millionaires and billionaires. This bill is about whether or not you're going to stand up for the middle class of America, who will be devastated if this bill fails. A lot of times when we come to the House floor, Madam Chair, you can vote for or against a bill. And maybe the bill does good things, maybe you think the bill does bad things, and if you vote against the bill, nothing happens. And some days, nothing happening is a good day. Today, if nothing happens, it's not nothing that happens. A no vote. And let's be clear, you've got options, Madam Chair. You can vote yes to pass this resolution and get this process of budget reconciliation started, or you can vote no, like all of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle brag they're going to do. So if that's the case, Madam Chair, and maybe I can persuade a few, because maybe they don't know this, because clearly they haven't read the bill. You hear them talking about Medicaid over and over and over again, cuts to Medicaid, cuts to Medicaid. Clearly they haven't read the bill, because if you read the bill, the word Medicaid is mentioned a total of 0 times in the bill. 0. But that's all they want to talk about. If you read the bill, you would talk about what this does to engage 11 different committees in this Congress, 11 committees, to start a process called budget reconciliation, where they will go into open hearings on C-SPAN. Everybody in America can watch the deliberations, where there will be a discussion about how to get this country back on track, which the people of this nation are hungering for. Not people yelling and screaming and telling lies and trying to scare people with false information. We are here to talk facts. And the facts are a no vote imposes $4.5 trillion in taxes that primarily hit middle and low income families, not the millionaires and billionaires that they seem to want to demonize. You know, we're trying, for example, and you heard President Trump at every rally talk about no tax on tips. Now, clearly the other side of the aisle was against that. They wanted everybody's taxes to go up. They said they were against renewing the Trump tax cuts, let alone adding things like no tax on tips. And so we know they were against making sure that those people that work for tips don't have to pay taxes on it. Well, who are those people that work for tips? Last time I checked, Elon Musk does not work for tips, Madam Chair. The billionaires aren't the ones working for tips. In fact, we went back and checked. There's over 6 million Americans in this country, 6 million, that actually do work for tips. And what is their average salary, Madam Chair? Is it $1 million? Is it tens of millions? Is it $1 billion? No. In fact, the average salary for tip workers is $32,000 a year. That's who we're helping in this bill. If you vote no, you're saying to those tip workers who are struggling, some of them may be working 2 or 3 jobs. They're not the millionaires and the billionaires. They might actually be able to take a family vacation for the first time if they don't have to pay tax. If the 87,000 new IRS agents that they created in the last administration are not unleashed on them to go audit them, to try to make them pay more money on their tip money, which is what is happening. We say no, they shouldn't have to pay taxes on those tips, Madam Chair. And the other side of the aisle says no to that. And they hide behind Elon Musk. They hide behind billionaires and millionaires. Except it's not the millionaires and billionaires that we're trying to help. They want to confuse the voters of this country so that when they vote no, the middle class of America doesn't realize in revolt that they just voted with their no vote to impose a $4.5 trillion tax hike on the middle class of this country. Look at the big number. Every income level tax goes up. You pay income taxes in America. If the other side of the aisle, Madam Chair, votes no, everybody's income tax rate goes up in America. But who are those folks? 145 million families. Not 145 million people. I'm talking about 145 million families in America who make less than $1 million. Will see their taxes go up. Go up. A tax increase, not on the millionaires and billionaires, if they vote no, but it's a tax increase primarily on middle and lower income families. Why aren't they telling us that? Why haven't they said that on this House floor? Because they don't want the American people to know the truth. They want to create class warfare and try to divide the country against itself. Shame on people who want to divide this country even more. It's time we unite this country and grow this country, grow the middle class, actually create more jobs and wealth and opportunity, which, by the way, as Mr. Schweikert pointed out earlier, and he's got the charts to prove it, wealth and opportunity for lower and middle income families is what happened in 2017 and beyond when we started with the Trump tax cuts. And just because they don't like the person whose name is behind those tax cuts, they want to try to demonize them. But the facts still remain. Who benefited the most? The low and the middle income. We were losing our middle class in America in the decade before we passed those tax cuts. Why? Go look at the record, the facts. We were losing great American company after great American company moving out of America. They were leaving the country. Why? We had the highest corporate tax rate in the world. Now, the other side would say, stick it to them even more, raise tax rates even more. By the way, there are laboratories of democracy where that's been tried. It's called New York and California. And every time they keep raising rates, what happens? People move in droves. Million-plus people have left those states to go to other states, Texas, Florida, Tennessee, that have no income tax. So sure, you're seeing it happen in America, but what happens if they destroy America's system? Where do you go? Well, some of those people left America. Madam Chair, we don't want that to happen. We actually brought companies back. Great, recognized. You would know the logos of all of them if we put them up. There's too many to mention. That had left America over years and years, and nobody did anything about it. Everybody knew why it was happening. And so we made our country competitive again. How? By lowering tax rates. Now, everybody should have been for that. Unfortunately, their party back then, the Democrat Party, said, we're going to vote no on that. Every single Democrat voted no. Why did they make it an issue, a partisan issue? I don't know, but I know this. When we lowered those tax rates to make America competitive, we're a global competing economy. Our companies in America don't just compete against the person down the street. They're competing against companies all over the globe, and we should applaud that. We shouldn't just applaud it, by the way. We should make sure they remain the most competitive businesses in the world. America remains the most competitive country in the world, but we weren't. We were not. That's why we were losing people. Imagine people saying, I'm going to leave the United States of America, greatest country in the history of the world, because our country stopped being competitive. And we finally did something about it. This Republican majority in 2017 did something about it and finally brought those jobs back and brought wages up. Wages grew for everybody. Companies were giving out bonuses, pay raises. Our unemployment rate went to virtually zero. Those are the facts. And so they want those tax rates to go up. Not all of them expire. The corporate rate remains, by the way, competitively low at 21%. The corporate rate stays at 21. You know what doesn't stay low? If they vote no, and I'm a yes vote, because I want our country to be competitive. I want our small businesses to be able to be competitive with big businesses. They love beating up on the big guy, but guess what they're going to do? And let's look at the facts. Anybody who votes no on this bill, Madam Chair, will tell every small business in America. It's a provision of the tax code called 199A. And if you're not a small business, you've probably never heard of 199A. But you know what? If you are a small business, a 20-person mom and pop shop on Main Street, America, anywhere in this country, 199A is your lifeblood. Why? Because that's what allows you as a small business, a 10, 15, 20-person American dream story. You started your own business. But you can now compete and pay the same tax rate as the big global multinational corporation, who's at 21. But what happens, Madam Chair, if they vote no? And again, the no vote does not mean nothing happens. If you vote no, you are saying you want the small business now to go from a 21% effective rate to as high as 43% taxes. So think about this. You're the mom and pop small business, and you're barely hanging on. You've beaten all the internet competitors, and you're still being able to hold on to those jobs. You know, show up at work every day, employ the 20 people, the 15 people that you're creating jobs for. If the other side gets their way, you jack up to 43% tax rate when your competitor, the big global billionaire corporation, is still at 21. That's what happens if they vote no. Why haven't they said that during the debate? I haven't heard it yet. Again, all you hear about is the billionaires and the millionaires are the ones getting all the breaks. Except it's not true, Madam Chair. It's just not true. Every small business in America gets kicked in the gut if this fails. Every small business in America. And look at the numbers. You're talking about over 20 million small businesses. Think of how many workers that is. Do they just want to kick all those workers out to the street, to the unemployment rolls? Because if you're paying 43% and your competitor's paying 21%, you don't need a math degree to figure out how quickly you're not going to be able to compete. We made them competitive in 2017. Why does the other side want to vote no and all of a sudden make every small business in America uncompetitive with the big billionaires? They're defending the billionaires, Madam Chair. This is insanity. But that's the reality of what happens if you vote no. And again, maybe by me going through the actual details, we might convince a couple of folks that maybe somebody duped them. They gave them some talking points. You just mention the word millionaire and billionaire, and next thing you know, you got a parade of 200 people that'll just line up and bash the bill. Except it's not in the bill. Do you want to stand up for the middle-class families of this country? Vote yes on the bill. Because that's who we're defending. Republicans are going to defend the ability for the next billionaire company maybe, but right now it's a dream in somebody's basement. This is what's great about America. And if you haven't, go look at your favorite company. Go look at the biggest companies. Most of them started with the dream in somebody's garage in Silicon Valley. I know a lot of entrepreneurs who started with great ideas and risked it all over and over again, and then ultimately they might have hit it big. But the only way they were able to hit it big is because they had the ability in the United States of America to turn that dream into a reality where now all of a sudden they might hire 300 people. We ought to applaud that. We ought to celebrate that. We ought to make sure that remains in place. The day we take away that ability in the United States, God help us as a country. Because the few people that still want that dream, but they don't have America to go to pursue it, they might go to other places, but there just aren't that many other places in the world to pursue it. We cannot crush the American dream of America. It starts with strengthening the middle class and the lower income families' ability to compete with the big guys so that one day maybe they can be. And then they too will be demonized by the other side. But in the meantime, give them that ability to compete fairly, and you take that away if you vote no on this bill. Facts. Those are the facts. Whose rates go up, whose rates don't if this bill fails. That's where we are. And I do think it's important one more time just to go through the facts of the 2017 bill because so many lies have been told about that. The poverty rate dropped to the lowest level in history. Again, this isn't the millionaires and billionaires. When we passed the bill in 2017 that every Democrat voted no on, the poverty rate in America dropped to its lowest rate in history. Unemployment hit a 50-year low. And lower-income workers, not the millionaires and billionaires, lower-income workers saw their wages grow substantially faster than the highest 10% of income earners. So whose side are you going to be on today? We're going to give everybody an opportunity. Stand up for those hardworking people who want their shot at the American dream. Stand up for that waiter or waitress who's working their tail off tonight, who's going to come home and go, wait a minute, I might not have to pay taxes on my tips. I can save that money and for the first time start a college fund for my kid, because it's not the millionaires and the billionaires that benefit from that. It's the average income worker, millions of them, by the way, the average income of $32,000 a year. That's who we're fighting for. That's who House Republicans are fighting for. And we're going to deliver for them because that was the mandate that the people of this country gave us. Whether you agree or not, whether you like Donald Trump or not, Donald Trump ran on very specific things, and he's delivering on those things. And I applaud President Trump for actually following through on the promises that were made. Promises made and promises kept actually matter in this town, and they're rare. And when it happens, we ought to applaud it. When this majority actually delivers, we're going to see on that board real soon who actually stands with the 77 million people of this country who said, we want this change. We demand this change. We're going to go to the polls to vote for this change. Let's preserve the American dream. Yes, at the risk of offending a couple of people, I'm fine with saying, let's make America great again, because America deserves to be great again. Don't put a $4.5 trillion tax on the middle class of this country. Let's let this country grow. Let's see the opportunity flourish. We will do it. We need to pass this bill to start that process. I urge all of my colleagues to vote yes, Madam Chair. And with that, I yield back the balance of my time.